Good afternoon and welcome to the virtual meeting of the Audit Committee of Allerdale Borough Council. My name is Lee Jardine and I'm the Democratic Services Officer, and for the purpose of this meeting I'm also the host. I will be assisting the committee with the use of technology to manage the process of the meeting. I will not have any control over the meeting and the meeting will not begin until instructed by the chair. This meeting is currently being live streamed via YouTube and a recording will be made available afterwards. Everyone has indicated they're attending the meeting and is now joined, and the meeting is locked. Shortly, I'll hand you over to the chair, but first, introductions. Can I ask the attendees to introduce themselves, starting with the members? Councillor Bainbridge.
Good afternoon, Councillor Bainbridge.
Councillor Lynch. We're having some problems at the moment with Councillor Lynch. Councillor Tyson.
Good afternoon. I'm Councillor Alan Tyson and I'm chair for this afternoon.
Thank you. We'll move on to the officers. Sharon Sewell.
Good afternoon. Sharon Sewell, Head of Governance and Monitoring Officer.
Emma Thompson.
Good afternoon, Emma Thompson, Assurance Risk and Audit Manager.
Paula McKenzie.
Good afternoon, Paula McKenzie, Assurance Risk and Audit Officer.
Gail Roach.
Good afternoon, Gail Roach, Democratic Services Manager.
Thank you. And we also have colleagues on from Grant Thornton. Richard Anderson.
Good afternoon, Richard Anderson, Grant Thornton, External Audit Manager.
Thank you. Councillor Lynch, are you back onto the meeting?
She has a hand up.
Yes, I'm sorry. The internet connection is very unstable. So I'm probably going to be going in and out. I'm afraid.
Thank you, Councillor Lynch. What we may do is we may
I'm okay. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. We may try and get you on by phone if the problems persist, okay?
Thank you.
Okay, so thanks very much for all the introductions. So members, just a reminder, if you wish to speak, can you please use the raised hand icon and only speak right when requested by the chair. To assist the chair, I will be advising who wishes to speak. If a vote is required, the chair will ask myself as Democratic Service Officer to go through each member alphabetically. Each member will reply with their name and I vote for, against or abstain. So thank you for all that. I'll now hand you over to the chair to start the meeting.
Okay, so it's about 2 o'clock and I welcome you to this meeting of the Audit Committee. So I'm Alan Tyson. We can now go straight into the agenda, I think. Item 1 is the minutes from the meeting of the 18th of February 2020. And we need to sign as a correct record the minutes of this meeting. If you agree with the minutes, don't put your hand up.
There are no indications that anyone wants to comment on the minutes, Chair. So I think you can assume that they are agreed.
Right, thank you. Item 2 then is apologies for absence, Lee.
Thank you, Chair. We have apologies for absence from Councillors Armstrong, King, Hodgson, Campbell-Savers and Kirkbride. Councillor Lynch is subbing for Councillor Campbell-Savers. Thank you.
Right, thank you. Item 3, declaration of interest. Council staff to give notice of any disclosable pecuniary interest, other registrable interest or any other interest and the nature of that interest in relating to any item on the agenda in accordance with the adopted code of conduct. Are there any declarations of interest?
Just to confirm, Chair, we don't have any declarations of interest.
Fine. Item 4 then. Questions. To answer questions from members of the public submitted in writing or by electronic mail no later than 5 p.m. 2 working days before the meeting. Are there any questions, Lee?
No questions have been received, Chair.
Thank you. So we now move to item 5, pages 7 to 20, which will be presented by Sharon Sewell, the head of the monitoring officer.
Thank you, Chair. I don't intend to go through the detail of the report or the appendix, which sets out the draft annual governance statement for 2019 to 20. The report sets out the Council's draft annual governance statement and what is required to meet the requirements of the Accounts and Audit Regulations 2015. I would like to point out, and apologies to the committee, this is the draft annual governance statement. And as Councillor Lynch has pointed out prior to the meeting, the final one will be approved with the statement of accounts. So this is the opportunity for the committee to make any comments or make any suggestions for changes, and just to give it some consideration. But it is just the draft, and the final one will come with the statement of accounts to the Audit Committee in November. So really, the report sets out the process. So as stated in the report, there is a strong correlation between effective governance and effective service delivery, as members are aware. And the purpose of the annual governance statement process is to provide a continuous review of the organisation's governance arrangements, so as to give assurance on the effectiveness of the process, and really to address and identify any weaknesses and supporting the continuous improvement of the authority. The process goes on throughout the year. It involves all levels, so the Chief Executive, Heads of Service, both statutory officers, Section 151, and myself as the monitoring officer. The Assurance, Risk and Audit Manager has an important key role, as does the Assurance and Risk and Audit team. And we do have a corporate governance group, which as representatives from across the whole of the council, that feeds into this. And we have managers' assurance statements for all the services, which also feed into it. So there's a lot of work done throughout the year to actually bring this documentation to you. So really it's over to the members if they have any questions. Thank you, Chair. You're on mute, Chair.
Are there any questions, members?
Just to confirm, Chair, there's no questions at the moment.
Okay.
If I can come in, Chair, before you approve the document as draft. As it is draft and there's a period of time until the next meeting, if members want to have any discussion following the meeting, or think of any more considerations, then they're more than welcome to contact me. Thank you.
Right, thank you, Monitoring Officer. So what we're here to do...
I think that was Councillor Lynch. Is Councillor Lynch still on the meeting?
Yeah, Chair, we seem to have lost Councillor Lynch. Are we okay to have a short adjournment and we'll get Councillor Lynch connected by phone? Is that okay?
Certainly, yeah.
Yeah, so if we can just...
It's about 10 past now.
Right, okay, so we'll come back at 14:15. If we could just knock our cameras and mics off, we'll get Councillor Lynch back on the call at the meeting. Thank you. Chair, we're just waiting for Councillor Lynch to rejoin us via phone. Hello, Councillor Lynch.
Hello.
Hi, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Yes.
Great. We'll just resume the meeting. And for the benefit of yourself, the chair will ask you at every interval if you have a questions.
Okay.
If you're not due to speak, yeah, we'll just control the mute for you so we don't hear your background. But yeah, if you'd like to continue the meeting and ask your question, that'll be fine.
Yes, it's on item 5 on the page 12 of the annual governance statement. It says in the scrutiny or the table there that says the key elements of the governance framework and the responsibilities of the audit committee, says they review governance, costs versus budget, and delivery of agreed internal audit plans. Now, the costs versus budgets, does that mean that the audit committee should see the financial performance reports, the capital revenue, and the outturn reports? Because these go to executive, and they went to executive on the 15th of July. Do they not come to this audit committee as well, in line with what the governance report says?
If I could, Chair, I could respond to that. The audit committee receive the accounts.
But the audit committee don't receive the revenue and outturn reports?
No, they receive the accounts.
So what, is there any reason why they don't receive the revenue and outturn reports?
It's not part of their current terms of reference to receive those. Those are that responsibility is part of another committee.
Right, so it's not part of the audit committee's response to do that?
No.
Right. Okay, that's something to look into then. Thank you very much.
Right, thank you, Councillor Lynch. Have we any more questions for the officers?
It doesn't appear so, Chair, no.
Okay, thank you. Then, Councillor Sue, the monitoring officer has already explained that these are, this is the draft annual government statement. So we've got our recommendation should be to approve the draft annual government statement as set out in Appendix 1 of this report. If everyone's happy to approve it, please don't show your hand at this stage.
For the purposes for Councillor Lynch, who's on the phone, you can just comment if you have any further queries.
Yes. And Councillor Lynch, do you have any further queries
No.
on this item? Okay. So
Sorry, Councillor Lynch, are you in agreement with the document as a draft at this stage?
As a draft, yes.
Thank you.
right, thank you. So we can approve the draft annual government statement as set out in Appendix 1. Okay. So we can now move on to the next item, which is item 6, and will be presented by Emma Thompson. This is the Assurance, Risk and Audit Year-End Report, pages 21 to 36.
Thank you, Chair. The next item on the agenda is the year-end report, which provides the Audit Committee the overall opinion from myself as the Audit Manager, based on the work that we have performed during 1920. We use this work and all the additional activities that the Audit Department undertake throughout the year, which may be advice and guidance, project work, attendance to various different project meetings, etc. We take this information, this work that we've contributed to throughout the year, and this provides us with an opinion. We move on to page 23. There is a summary of the work completed, and within that summary there's also an overview of the opinions that were provided as part of each of those audit reports, and this information contributes to the overall opinion for 1920. Moving on to page 24 provides a summary of audits from 1920 plan, which were still in progress at the time of writing this report, and I can confirm that all of those listed, the information within the audit activity within those reviews have been considered as part of this opinion, and also all of those reports have been finalised. Moving forward, page 24 and 25 give the summary of the time spent by the Audit Department, and also an indication of the chargeable time value, which for this financial year was 65%. In terms of risk management, which is a key role for the Assurance, Risk and Audit team in terms of facilitation, we have both reviewed independently the risk management framework, and we have also provided risk management facilitation workshops to the whole organisation and to the Audit Committee. Moving forward to page 26, I can confirm that all of the fraud policies were reviewed and presented to the Audit Committee during 1920, and also that the public sector internal audit and standards self-assessment to support the quality assurance and improvement programme of internal audit was presented to this committee on the 19th of February 2020. Based on that information, it is my opinion that the independent assurance reviews completed by the Assurance, Risk and Audit team and the evidence gathering processes employed by the governance group provide substantial assurance over the adequacy and effectiveness of the organisation's framework for risk management, control and governance. Prior to us, I can take questions now on the report prior to us going to the first appendix, which is the contract management audit review. Thank you.
Yeah, we have a question from Councillor Bainbridge.
Okay, Councillor Bainbridge, you have a question?
I do, yes, thank you. I'm actually looking at 2.1. There are 3 areas there that I can see, and only one appendix provided. First of all, there's procurement, then there's contract management, and then there's cash management. All 3 reports I've got 2 limited items on them, which I find really strange, because I thought this was a professional council and we still haven't limited things on there, which means that we haven't got the proper actual structures in place to actually deal with these items. Now, we are going on to Appendix A, but I'm just wondering why we have not got anything for the actual procurement document or the cash management, because they've all been done and they're all limited. So surely we should see what improvements need to be made to get them back up to standard. Thank you.
Both reports have been presented to previous committees, Councillor Bainbridge, within the quarters that they were completed. I can confirm that both reports have been presented to committee previously for this financial year. This report that we present today is the year-end report and the reports that have been pulled together for quarter 4. And in quarter 4, the only report that was finalised was the contract management review.
Okay, in that case, is it possible that you can actually confirm that everything that was needed to be done for the other 2 was actually completed? Because we all
in terms of the follow-up of agreed actions?
Yes.
Absolutely. I can circulate a communication round to the committee following the meeting to provide an individual update for each agreed action for both of those reports.
Thank you.
Right, thank you. Thank you, Emma. Are there any more questions for the officer?
Councillor Lynch, have you got any questions?
Yes. Page 22, item 1.6, where it says internal audit is a non-critical service, etc. What does this actually mean? Does it mean that there's to be no internal audit? Could you just explain that section to me, please?
Of course, Councillor. A non-critical service is a term that is used within the business continuity framework. So when we are hit with an emergency in terms of us as an organisation, there will be critical services which need to be deployable within 24 hours, for example, and those would be community-based, customer-based, emergency-based services. And there are non-critical services, whereas responding to an emergency at that first point, it is not essential that they are deployed straight away. And so the best way for a business to respond is to provide as much support to those critical services that are required within an emergency first, and then start to bring back online the non-critical services. To give you an example, I am part of the Lancashire District Audit Group, which is quite a large network of audit managers across Lancashire and Cumbria. And there's a number of audit services who have had, some of their services and their teams redeployed also. So this is quite a consistent approach across most councils, that some teams will have provided some resource to those business critical areas so we can comply and deliver our services to the local authority when responding to such a big emergency, such as COVID-19 pandemic.
So when that critical service, that critical incident goes down, then the internal audit will come back looking at the internal audit. Is that correct?
We have continued to look at internal audit work right through the pandemic. It's just part of our team have been redeployed. So some of my time has been spent on responding to the emergency, and as has some of the time from the assurance risk and auditor. In fact, she's actually redeployed currently.
So internal audit work is still going on?
Yes, it is, yes.
Right, that's all I wanted to know. Thank you very much.
Right, are there any more questions? Okay, I have a question just on the time summary, please, Emma.
Yep.
I noticed corporate support, the plan 70 days, and in fact it was about 50% up, 102 days, in essence. Is this because of you employed on other functions?
For the corporate support, that is to respond to what is required within the organisation.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, there'll be a combination of things like business continuity and emergency planning within there. So, yeah, there's a various number of rechargeable lines within that, and that will have contributed to that.
And in fact, you're on the same chart. Your chargeable audit time is basically 65%, which is very close to the planned days. Was there any carryover of activities from that into this financial year?
Absolutely. On the top of page 24, that summarises the audits that were still being completed in Q1 of 2021. And as previously and as stated, those have now been finalised.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Now, if there's no more questions, then we don't need to go to record. Can I just clarify this? This is only the first part of the report, of course, because we've not moved on to the contract management review yet. We should do that before putting any recommendations forward, I guess.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. The contract.
Just to come in, Councillor Lynch, have you got any further questions on that?
No, I do have questions on the contract management review, though.
Right, we'll come to you then. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
So the contract management review, according to me, is pages 29 onwards to the end. Yes.
That's right. Thank you, Chair. The contract management review was completed and finalised as a report during Q4 of 1920. I will take questions at the end of course, but I just wanted to run through, as always, an update on the implementation of the agreed actions. So for clarity for the audit committee, areas for improvement are areas that we would highlight to the area of the business that we review, but would be below our risk appetite to raise a recommendation. These are not followed up. These are taken away by the service for them to decide whether they are practicable to implement. So just for clarity, we don't follow up the areas for improvement. So just working through the recommendations, I would just like to confirm where they are and how and if they are completed. So for agreed action 1, I can confirm that the service area have completed that. Agreed action 2 and 3 have been completed. Agreed action 4 has been completed. Agreed action 5 is part of a wider implementation for a new contract register system, and that is to improve the information collated as part of our contract register, and they are now adapting that to ensure reference to the storage of our contracts with legal services is also included. So that is in progress. Recommendation number 6, again, that is in relation to the contract register. So that I have seen the draft of the new contract register, and that has been shared around all third tier managers. And as I say, that is just being finalised. So they are well on with the completion of that agreed action, but actions 5 and 6 very much do work together. And I can confirm that agreed action 7, the service area have confirmed that has been completed. So I will just take any questions now from the committee. Thank you, Chair.
Right, thank you. Councillor Lynch, have you any questions on this? You have, haven't you? Yes.
Yes, some of those have been answered. I didn't catch action 4. Has that been agreed? Yes,
it has, Councillor Lynch.
Yeah. So that 1, 2, 3, and 4 have all been actioned.
Yep.
5's in progress. 6 is a draft. You've seen the draft.
Yep.
And that is nearly finished. And 7 is complete.
7 is complete, and I just think that that's, you know, in terms of the, you know, where we are right at this moment in time, I think it's an excellent achievement for the service to have been able to deploy resources to actually implement those actions as well. So yeah, I just wanted to highlight that.
Yeah, because when you look at the actual, there were some real concerns there actually about the contracts, and particularly on page 33, where it says that there were 27 contracts being held by 2 members of staff who were no longer employed by the council. So there were some concerns there, and you are happy that those concerns, and they're sort of quite big risks and weaknesses there, and you're happy that those have now been rectified.
The service areas have confirmed that they've implemented those actions, and actually as part of the audit review, agreed action 2 was completed during draft report stage, and I have noticed that the service area have also been providing lots of training, etc., for people to do virtual training even. So yeah, there's a lot of activity going on.
Right, thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Bainbridge, do you have a question?
I do, yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I mean, I've been looking through the report, and I found some real concerns, because I actually wouldn't have expected from Allerdale, you know, for this type of service. I mean, it says basically there was no clear governance arrangement, no standardized systems, controls and reporting structures in place. I mean, how long have we been going through all these different things? That should never have happened. Contracts that were tested during this, they actually couldn't find any clear objectives and lines of reporting. I mean, this is a terrible thing. I mean, we rely on the contracts of the council, and I can't understand why this was such a bad report and there was limited items on it. And can anybody explain to me why this service was let to go like this? Because when you read it, it's like a nightmare, because I just can't understand why it's in such a bad state, to be quite honest. And I would have expected
contract management. Contract management isn't. Contract management isn't a service within the council, so it doesn't have a department. All of our contracts, as you may understand, is that those are managed within different service areas right across the council. And so I think the main area for improvement is that consistency of approach. So within the report, there are some highlighted areas of best practice, and it's a case of looking at those areas of best practice and sharing those further, ensuring everybody throughout the council who has contract management responsibilities, it's made really clear what those roles and responsibilities look like. And as you can see, we've highlighted those within the recommendations, and one of the recommendations that details that within our financial regulations we would update and clarify the expectations of the roles and responsibilities of contract managers and ensure these are shared and consistently applied. So yes, I hear your concerns, Councillor Bainbridge, and absolutely that's why it was very necessary for us to complete the audit review, and I'm sure the council will have benefited from our activity and that those recommendations will add value going forward.
But my actual problem is that contracts are a critical part of what run the council. And when I looked and saw that only 73% of cases were actually given a handover when actually receiving these, surely that is not good for continuation of service and actual contracts. So I'm hoping that if all these actions are completed, that somebody reviews it again and makes sure it's in place, because it's critical to this council that contract management is in line with what we should be doing.
I understand, yeah, I understand, and as I say, that's why, you know, one of the main reasons this review was undertaken, and and the recommendations that have been made are very much about consistency of approach and improvement of control. So yes, if like as previously discussed, if you would like a follow-up document for the contract management audit as well, that can be presented to the committee alongside the procurement follow-up and the cash management follow-up, if that would be beneficial.
That would be brilliant, thank you. That would be really good. I would like to see those, and just to make sure that everything's completed.
Thank you.
Right, thank you, Councillor Bainbridge. Are there any other questions? Okay, I'd just like to make the point that certainly from my experience, which is a few years ago now, contract handover in particular is very important, and I see you've done retraining on this. I mean, it's very important that both the contractor and the person contracted to knows exactly what they're in for in terms of control of the contract, rather than just a piece of paper they pass over on handover. Okay, so I think we can then go. Can we then go to recommendation for the whole document at this stage?
I would maybe
Yes,
just.
please. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, I was just going to ask if Councillor Lynch had any further comments.
No, I was just going to endorse what Councillor Bainbridge said, and yes, having a report on the contract management and come back to the audit committee with that would be very, very good. Thank you.
Right, thank you. So the recommendation is that the report is accepted and considered as part of the approval of the annual government statement 2019-20, subject to any additional information that the committee may require. So unless, if you're quite happy with that, don't put your hand up.
It seems to be agreed, Chair.
Right, thank you. So we now move on to item 7, which is the Audit Charter Report, pages 37 to 46, and the charter itself is pages 41 to 45, and I understand this is to be presented by Paula Mackenzie.
Thank you, Chair. Agenda item 7 is the Assurance, Risk and Audit Charter, which is a requirement of the Public Sector of Audit Standards 2017. The Charter is a formal document that defines the internal audit activities, purpose, responsibilities and position within the Council. The Assurance, Risk and Audit Charter is reviewed via the audit team annually and is updated in line with the Council Plan 2030 and the work and practices that change throughout. I don't intend to go over the full report or the charter itself. However, I'm more than happy to take any questions. And obviously the recommendation is via the report, which is to accept the Assurance, Risk and Audit Charter. Thank you, Chair.
Right. So do we have any questions on this report, the Audit Charter Report?
Councillor Lynch, have you got a question?
No, I have no questions on this.
Okay.
Thank you. Chair, we have no questions.
Just having a look if I have one. Yes. No, it looks as if I haven't. Okay. So in that case, we can move to the recommendation, which is basically to accept the Assurance, Risk and Audit Charter. Same procedure. If you've no more to say, don't stick your hand up.
It seems agreed, Chair.
Right, thank you. So we're now up to item 8, the Audit Plan and Strategy 2021, pages 47 to 58, which will be presented by Emma Thompson, the ARO officer.
Thank you, Chair. Just for clarity, before we progress, under the recommendations for this for this item, the recommendation is to approve the Assurance Risk and Audit Resource Plan and Strategy. The purpose of this document is to provide the Audit Committee the approach for the 2021 Audit Plan in line with the Public Sector Internal Audit and Standards, and to provide an overview of the planned activity for 2021. What I would like to highlight to the committee, without going into great detail throughout the report, are two main areas for consideration. The first main area for consideration is the audit planning approach that the audit department at Allerdale Borough Council have undertaken. This is in line with the Planning Performance Standard 2010 for the Public Sector Internal Audit and Standards. The audit planning approach is based on a number of factors, and these are the things that we consider prior to selecting our areas and our audits for the year going forward. This will be budget and materiality, the objectives of the Council's strategy and delivery plan 2024 and the strategic plan, the corporate risks and issues to the organisation, any outcomes or emerging service risks, any annual governance statement significant issues, risks arising from previous audit reviews, outcomes from annual risk meetings with senior management team, who we meet on a one-to-one basis every year to support our plan, and any organisational insight we have gained from any advice and consultancy activity as defined within the standards. Moving forward to 6.3, I would just like to highlight once again that the ability for internal audit to deliver going forward has had some impact in relation to the redeployment of services, and what we will be employing going forward and adopting as an approach is a flexible approach to audit planning. So, for example, within this audit review, within this audit resource plan, it defines the areas which we will be auditing for 2021. However, as redeployment days fluctuate, we will need to review this on a regular basis. So just to let you know that our approach will not be changing in terms of how we decide what we're going to audit, but our allocation of resource may as we respond to ongoing pandemic support as a local authority to our communities. So just to make that really, really clear, that this plan is at a point in time. However, it will be a priority of the audit team to deliver all of our statutory reviews. I don't intend to go into it any further. I will just take any questions. Thank you, Chair.
Right, have we any questions on the programme?
Yes, Chair, Councillor Bainbridge.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks, Chair. Emma, I would just like to ask you, do you think that this will hamper you actually getting all your critical services covered when you come to do it? Because I know you're saying you've been on quite a lot of different things. Do you think you'll still get all your statutory things done easily, or do you think it'll be quite difficult?
The plan that I've presented to you is at a point in time, but as I've said, we will prioritise our statutory audit reviews, and the council is committed to deliver those within the time frame.
Thank you.
Okay, any more questions, Councillor Lynch?
Yes, the three areas from last time that we've discussed, the procurement, contract management and cash management. Going forward into next year, will you be looking at these and reviewing these again and making sure definitely that what has been put in place that you've said on the particular things has been put in place and is in operation and working.
Thank you, Councillor. As part of the internal audit and standards, there is a requirement for internal audit to monitor the implementation of agreed actions, and this is via an activity defined as follow-up. On page 57, within the plan, there is a line you will see within there for 10 days for follow-up activity. And as the audit committee have already requested, specific follow-up feedback is made for contract management, procurement and cash management. We will ensure that the activity as planned is delivered to the audit committee.
Thank you very much.
Right, thank you. So any more questions of the officers?
It doesn't appear there's any more questions, Chair.
Okay, so in which case I'd like to put forward approval of the report, the audit plan strategy for 2021.
There's no further comment on that, Chair.
Thank you. So I take it we've approved it. And so now we're up to items 9 and 10, which are the two Grant Thornton actions, which are going to be presented by Richard Anderson, I believe.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So I'll take the two reports in turn, starting with item 9, which is the progress report, and then I'll pause if anyone's got any questions on that report before moving on to the audit plan. So I'll just pick out a few key messages. So starting off on page 5, I'd just like to highlight that there's been a change to the external audit team. I'm replacing Angela Pieri as the audit manager. Angela's moved on from Grant Thornton. I've worked with the council in the past, and I'm also audit manager at Cumbria County Council and the local government pension scheme. So I've got a good understanding of the local area, and yeah, I'm looking forward to working with the council going forward. In terms of progress, we capture this on page 6 of our report. We undertook a lot of our audit planning and an interim audit in early 2020, January to March 2020, and obviously on this agenda we've issued our audit plan. Obviously, COVID-19 has impacted our risk assessment, and we've ensured that our audit plan has been appropriately updated to take account of the impacts of COVID, and I'll come on to that a little later in this report. Moving on to page 7, I just highlight that we've continued to be in discussion with officers over the past few months, and as Grant Thornton, we've also offered a workshop on some financial reporting issues, which members of the finance team were invited to attend. Page 7 also highlights a point on audit fees and some changes to the regulatory environment that we are subject to as external auditors, which has increased the scope of work and detail of work that we have to do in some specific areas. This has led to an increase in the audit fee for the council, which has been agreed with officers. I'll come on to that when I present the audit plan, because we clearly outline what is included in that increase. But this just really highlights that this has been driven by the kind of regulatory oversight of external auditors, and these are changes which have kind of been coming through the system over the last year. On page 8, we tried to just outline how COVID-19's impacted the audit process, but also the timetable for provision of the financial statements. So I think the first point to highlight is that as Grant Thornton, the external audit team, we've been home working since the 16th of March. And it looks we will be working remotely, obviously not on site during the final accounts audit. We've already had discussions with the council, and we're confident that we can deliver the audit remotely through use of technology such as Microsoft Teams, but obviously it will feel different to audits in previous years. We're also just trying to highlight some of the areas we'll see COVID will impact financial statements. Obviously, it has an impact on the overall financial position of the council, and we'll consider that as part of our value for money work and the impact on the medium-term financial plan. It's likely to have an impact on the valuation of property, plant and equipment, and also around the collectability of some debt. It's also possible that there may be some disclosures required in the post-balance sheet events note with the impact that might have been seen since the year end. Obviously, disclosures within the annual governance statement, and also just in terms of some of the logistics of finalising the accounts in terms of signing arrangements, and obviously having meetings like this with yourselves as those charged with governance remotely. Like I say, there's been some changes to the timetable, so the deadline for provision of draft accounts is now the end of August, and the deadline for provision for the completion of audits is now the end of November. On page 9, we highlight our timetable, and this highlights that it is our intention to complete the audit by the statutory deadline. And so that's what we are making plans with officers to do. The back half of this report is our usual sector update, where we just try and highlight some publications, some of which are Grant Thornton publications and up from others in the sector, just for your review. I won't go through them in any detail, but I'm happy to take questions on any of them specifically. So that's all I wanted to say about the progress report, but I'm happy to take questions on any of the detail of that item.
Right, thank you. I'm just looking at mine on my copy, which is in landscape, and there is a slight difference in numbering, I think,
okay.
Between the pages you've been given and the ones I've got. But well, I think other people might have been able to follow it better. Okay, that's fine. So, have we any questions on the first part of the report, and then or on the sector update, please?
Councillor Lynch, have you got any questions?
Pardon?
Have you got any questions for on item
no,
9?
I've just got questions on the second part.
Thank you.
Is that item 10 or on the sector update?
No, I'm looking at the external audit plan and the significant risks.
Which is item 10, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
If that's the case, then Chair, there's no further questions for item 9.
Right, okay. And so certainly members have noted, all I have to do is to ask members note the content of item 9 then, and we can proceed to item 10, the external audit plan.
Okay, thank you. So when I'm referring to page numbers here, I've been referring to the pack page, which are the ones which are presented on the side of the page, if just for ease of reference.
Yes.
So I'm now looking at pack page 21 for the introduction and headlines of the plan. Okay, so yeah, this is our audit plan, which summarises our approach to the accounts and VFM audit for 2019-20. So I'll just talk through the introduction and headlines page, and I'll pick out a couple of bits in the report, and then I'm happy to take any questions on any of the detail included. So obviously, in terms of the financial statements audit, we're considering obviously the council's accounts, but also the group accounts, with the accounts consolidating the financial information of the Keswick Museum and Art Gallery, the Helena Thompson Museum, and the Allerdale Investment Partnership. So we have both the single entity and group accounts to consider. We've identified 4 significant risks on the financial statements audit. The first is management override of controls. This is a presumed significant risk on all financial statements audits. So you'd see this in any audit plan that you looked at, whether it was in the public sector or a commercial entity. The second significant risk is in relation to the valuation of land and buildings and investment property. This is obviously a very material figure within the council's accounts, and it's an estimate and reliant on the work of a property valuer. So this is an area where we apply a large degree of challenge, and it's an area of particular focus from regulators. So this is a common significant risk across all local government bodies, and an area of particular audit focus. Similarly, the third significant risk there is in relation to the valuation of the pension fund net liability. Again, this is a significant estimate which is provided by an expert, versus the actuary, with a number of assumptions involving judgment. So again, it's another area where our regulators are asking for us to apply greater challenge, apply more of our audit time. So again, this is a common significant risk across the local government sector. And the final significant risk, as you might imagine, is the impact of COVID-19, described on the previous item on some of the areas we're expecting it to impact. But I think, as you'd expect, a large part of our audit will have to take account of the various impacts of COVID-19. So that is a significant risk for this year's audit. In terms of materiality, we've determined planning materiality to be 823,000. This is set as a proportion of the gross expenditure of the council. We also set a lower threshold, which we call the Triviality Threshold, and that's been set at 41,000. And what that means is we'll effectively report all issues found in our audit more than that amount. Moving on to the value for money audit, we've carried out our initial risk assessment, and as you can see in the plan, we've identified 3 significant risks where we're going to focus our work on the value for money side in relation to financial sustainability, waste and recycling contract and procurement arrangements, and also decisions in relation to the Workington Community Stadium project. So these are the 3 areas where we're going to carry out our detailed work over the coming months with regards our value for money work, and it'll really just focus in on arrangements in relation to these three key areas. The other thing I'll highlight on this page is there's nothing to bring to your attention as those charged with governance regarding our independence. We're obviously independent and able to conduct the audit. I'll just briefly touch on the audit fee, which I mentioned on the previous agenda item. On page 35 of pack page 35, report page 17, we highlight the audit fee which has been agreed with the council for 2019-20, and you'll see that there's a number of areas which have led to an increase in the audit fee from the original scale fee, which was the fee originally set by public sector audit appointments. So the first area is what we've classed as raising the bar, and this reflects a kind of the change within the sector and the expectations of our regulator, the Financial Reporting Council, which over the last couple of years is now an expectation that the level of work, the level of challenge that auditors should bring has increased, which obviously means that more work needs to be carried out. So that really captures that trend. We also highlight that there's additional work we need to carry out in relation to key estimates relating to pensions, and property, plant and equipment valuations. Also, in relation to COVID-19, there's been additional complexity in certain areas, which creates more areas where we as auditors have to focus our time. You see, there's also an increase in relation to the value for money conclusion. The scale fee assumes would usually assume one significant risk. Here we've got three significant risks on the value for money side. So again, this increase reflects the increased work we'll have to do in relation to the VFM conclusion opinion. And the final area relates to welfare benefit expenditure. Again, the scale fee initially set assumes that the housing benefit certification work at the council would be done by the same external auditor who does the accounts with yourselves. That's not the case. There's a separate auditor responsible for housing benefit certification. So there's some work that we have to do on an account side, which we wouldn't necessarily have to do if we were also the auditor of the housing benefit claim. So that explains why there's been a significant increase in the audit fee, those various factors. And like I said, that this has been discussed and agreed with management, but I hope that provides a little more context. I wasn't going to say any more on the plan, but I'm more than happy to take any questions on any of the detail or anything I've just said.
Okay, so have we any questions on this, on item 10, please?
Councillor Lynch.
Yes, does Councillor Bainbridge have some questions as well?
Yes.
Yes.
Take Councillor Bainbridge first, and then I'll do mine afterwards.
Right, okay. Councillor Bainbridge, would you like to come in first? Yeah.
Thanks, Chair. I've never seen so many significant risks on the plan before, or so much detail asked for on the value for money. And I'm just wondering what your opinion is of what happened.
So I think on the accounts, so take it in turns. On the account side, I think it's a reflection of obviously one of the risks in there is COVID-19, which is obviously exceptional and you know is applicable across the sector. And the other three significant risks on the account side, I think, are ones that will have been included in previous periods. So I think there's nothing out of the ordinary on the account side. I think, yeah, on value for money, I think three significant risks is more than you'd usually expect to see. But I think it's a reflection that there have been a couple of significant decisions made in the year, which we as external auditors need to dedicate time to review. Obviously, this is just the plan. We haven't carried out our detailed work in relation to the risks. That the findings from that will be reported in the audit findings report. But I think it's just a reflection that some significant decisions have been made, and as an external auditors, we want to review and get an understanding of the processes followed to get those decisions. So it's not indicative of any weaknesses at this stage. It just reflects the areas that we will be looking at.
Thank you.
Are you happy with that response, Councillor Bainbridge?
I am, thank you.
Yes, okay. So, Councillor Lynch.
Yes, along the similar lines to Councillor Bainbridge, but particularly the value for money section, financial sustainability, where it says the level of savings required over the period of the MTFP represents a significant challenge. Now, what should we be doing as an audit committee and what information do we need to have as an audit committee to start looking at that to see how the council is responding to that, because clearly, according to your section there, the council is not going to be making significant savings, and I think this committee ought to sort of see what it is that the council is trying to do to make those savings, particularly after agreeing a budget that we did at our meeting earlier this year. Secondly, the same with the waste and recycling contract and the stadium project. Ought we to be asking for reports to come back to this committee to see what is happening about those value for money arrangements? Because the stadium project incurred £1.1 million costs, and the executive decided not to go ahead with it. So these are things that maybe this committee should be looking at, or want to know what it is that the councillor are going to do about, or the executive are going to do about these particular things.
So I suppose from our, I can talk to from our perspective what the types of work we'll do in each of these areas. I think it's probably for officers in terms of which forum it's most appropriate for you members to be kind of providing a specific challenge on each of these areas. But I can certainly outline what the work we'll be doing and what we'll be looking to bring back to this committee in our audit findings report. So in terms of financial sustainability, the areas that we'll be looking at are the kind of key assumptions included within the budget and around the medium-term financial strategy, and we'll be reviewing those assumptions and whether they're reasonable, and also looking at delivery against planned savings. So that that's where we'll be focusing, and that's the work which we're going to be doing in the coming months, and then we'll bring back to this committee within our audit findings report our assessment in these areas. So obviously there'll be a bit more kind of detail in our kind of final conclusion on that risk area when we bring the audit findings report. Regarding the other two significant risks, our value for money work is generally around arrangements which have been put in place. So for both the waste and recycling contract and the Workington Community Stadium project, we'll be reviewing the arrangements and the decision-making processes which led to the decisions being made. And again, we'll include a commentary within our audit findings report. So I guess from our perspective, we'll be bringing back to this committee like a more detailed consideration of each of the significant risks. And like I said, in terms of the scrutiny, I think it might be one for officers to pick up on in terms of what you can do as an audit committee.
Thank you, Chair. Could I think maybe these are key things, and I think perhaps officers maybe should look at how the audit committee keeps a track of these, because obviously the accounts are not going to come until November, the audit of the accounts, and perhaps a sort of progress report on how things are going with these three things, the value for money, maybe should come back to the audit committee.
Yes, certainly. I think would one of the officers like to comment on that, please, that whether we could receive intermediate reports on internal progress?
In terms of the areas stated, Grant Thornton, who were commissioned to carry out this work on behalf, as our external auditor on behalf of Valedale Borough Council, they are, as clearly stated, going to provide this committee with the report. And so I think it's important that we don't duplicate any activity there. However, what I would like to highlight to the committee is that as part of the review of the plan that they've just completed for our 2021 work going forward, as always, the committee will receive reports from internal audit on financial services and activity around that. And of course, as transformation is a fundamental priority for the council, that will be included within there. And also the LATCO, Allerdale Waste Services, the committee will have seen in the plan that they have just approved that that is an audit review that we have in our plan for this year. So in terms of the value of money for the arrangements moving forward, then the audit is actually in the planning stage now. So the audit committee will, when that work's concluded, receive those assurances.
Okay, are you satisfied with that response, Councillor Lynch?
Partly, yes, but what about the financial sustainability and the budget? Will there be a sort of an interim report at the next meeting? Because the audit report does not come out until November. And I think the audit committee ought to sort of know what is happening regarding the finances and the savings before then.
Okay, would anyone like to respond?
The work that Grant Thornton are doing and will obviously come to the committee when it's ready. And obviously councillors I'll get the information and the work that officers do around the budget of the medium term financial strategy when it's available. But there isn't an interim report on it, because obviously the work has been done by Grant Thornton and the information around it, and they'll be in contact with all of the officers and will be providing them with the relevant information, and that'll be the full information that's required by the audit committee. So I'm not quite sure what further interim report you would be requiring.
I think from our perspective, if in the intervening period, if we had significant concerns in any of these specific areas, then we would be looking to bring it to the attention of the audit committee in the intervening period. But like you said, and I think when we bring our audit findings report, the audit findings report on each of these risks will include our assessment and also a management response in relation to each of the risks. But I think in the intervening period, if there is anything significant, then we would highlight that.
Okay.
And that would be done through obviously discussions with the officer team and with, as Richard said, do an officer management response too. So you will be kept up to date, but it depends if there is any other significant risks identified during their work on their findings.
Right,
okay, thank you.
So that's, are there any more questions? Well, Councillor Lynch or from Councillor Bainbridge?
No, thank you, no.
Okay, so basically I'll ask members to note the content of item 10 as well, the 2019-2020 plan for the auditors. Okay, and I'll take the usual thing. If you're happy, don't stick your hand up.
It appears agreed, Chair.
Right, thank you. Well, I'd like to thank Richard Anderson for attending from Grant Thorntons and for his work on the last two items. And unless anyone else has anything to say, I think I can bring the meeting to a close. Everybody happy with that?
Yes, Chair, thank you.